Well, here we are, the DJI Mini 4 Pro. Unfortunately, after its 10 hours of flight time, and it's traveled 100 kilometers in that time, I've had 2 small crashes, and I've damaged the front right axle joint. As you can see, there's quite a bit of play in this lift arm, whereas this is quite solid. Here is the new joint. I should purchase this one off Amazon. I'm going to put the link in the description. It looks pretty well the same as the OEM DJI one, but this kit comes with the tools to make it handy to get it changed quickly. Got your T5, which is needed, and a pry tool, and the little tweezers to get the small fasteners. This kit also comes with the brand new fasteners. So here we go. Let's get at it, and we'll get this joint changed. I don't think it's going to take very long. First tool needed, T5 Torx. We have 2 fasteners we have to remove to access the joint. Once we get these 2 fasteners removed, our whole arm is going to come free from the drone. At that point, we're going to have some wires to manage and be careful to not damage. And be very mindful of these small fasteners. They can jump out of the way, they seem. Screw 2. Sometimes these little screws can give you trouble. Sometimes you have to load the joint up because it has been crashed. So this plastic, the metal has been fatigued, and plastic, I'm sure, is not as exactly as new. So everything's a little different. There's the be careful. Very easy to lose. Okay, now that we have our 2 fasteners removed, we can carefully remove our arm. Truly, our 2 fasteners screw into the joint right here and here. So this is where we are going to have to pull the lift arm from that joint. And there we go. So we come slowly. We have to be mindful of the wires. There's 2 wires running to power our motor. And they're going to be fairly resilient, but you're not going to want to bend this too much out of the way. But be very careful. Don't force anything. Go slow at this point, and we'll go back to our T5 Torx. We have 3 more fasteners, and our joint is removed. And with Torx, especially at this point, take your time. Make sure you're engaged into the fastener properly, because once you strip one of these small Torx fasteners, this can be quite difficult to remove. So I highly recommend taking your time, making your screwdrivers engaged properly, and it'll make sure the whole job goes a lot smoother. Fastener 2, back to our tweezers so we can not drop these tiny fasteners. 2, and remember, keep these. You never know with drones and once you're into hobbies like this, please keep those fasteners. You may never know when you're going to need them. And there we are, we're free. Get the last fastener out of here. And now we can retrieve our joint. Broken joint. There's our wires, 3 wires. Just be mindful at this point. We'll just set it aside for a minute and we'll compare. Old joint, new joint. You can see where the damage is. Quality of the new part looks great. Let's get it installed. This is the little more tricky part. Just remember to go slow. Alignment can only go in one way. The point of the triangle points towards the gimbal on the camera. Best to get it in place here. Then we're gonna probably have to use our tweezers for the rest. My fingers are too big for manipulating this. There we are. As you can see there, we got the axle joint put into place. One of our 3 new fasteners here. Try and balance the model. Fastener 1 fits snugly into the tool, and we will. I spoke too soon, but we're lucky. Here we are. Be mindful not to strip fasteners. Take your time to make sure they're engaging properly. These are very fine threads, and it is not fun to deal with damaged threads that are this small. So please take your time. If it doesn't feel like it's engaging properly, slow down, back up. That one's started. We'll go on to the next. Whoop, screwdriver down. Nope, didn't set right. So let's use the tweezers and get it. This is the tool I didn't have, so I appreciate this kit. I have tweezers, but none that pointy and long. And if you are doing this for the first time, and this isn't a normal task in your wheelhouse, one thing I could recommend to make it a little easier is, if you're comfortable, take take off your propellers. It'll make a whole nother dynamic that you will not have to worry about while you're trying to manipulate the drone in these small parts. So just the propellers, you have to mark them because they do need to be orientated in the correct manner for a drone to fly properly. Ask me how I know. Years ago on my first drone, I had a heck of a time getting my drone to fly. And by the end of it, a little bit of troubleshooting with a friend, I'd put a couple of propellers on when I assembled the drone for the first time. This is why these tweezers are so handy. You got to get this screw in right. And if you get, if your fingers and your attention gets frustrated, just set it down. Take a minute. These little tasks on little models may seem simple, but when you are dealing with micro screws and very fine threads, it's not simple. It is a little more attention to detail. So slow down, take your time. One more fastener, and then we can tighten everything down. As you're doing this, do not tighten these screws down all the way. As you're installing the new screws to your axle joint, do not tighten them completely. That will not give you any benefit. That will cause you struggle. So get a couple threads started, and then once all the threads are started for all 3 fasteners for the axle joint, then you can take your time, tighten each one to the final torque. There we are. Tweezers in, screwdriver all at the same time. Started. There we go. Please, if you're doing this, take your time. Now that we have all fasteners in our axle joint, now I'm going to go through and make sure everything tightens properly, and we're going to snug them all down. And then once they're all snugged down, then I'll go for my final torque. This is something that you kind of just have to have a feel for. I've been dealing with models for years. Since my very young childhood, I've been building things like this and repairing things like this. So if you're struggling and you've never done anything like this, be mindful that this is tough. This is not a simple skill at times, but simply done if you take your time. All right. Leading one torqued, top one torqued, and bottom torqued. Okay, now we can make sure our wires are good, and we will reassemble our axle joint to our lift arm. Okay, so now push in, there we are. See, there's the tang to stop it. Screw holes are lined up, and we can grab our original T5s to hold our lift arm on, and we will finish up because there we go. 2 more screws, and we have successfully changed our right front axle joint on our DJI Mini 4 Pro. Again, make sure torqued. Go to our bottom fastener. Get our screw in there. Be mindful while we're flipping over. In we go. Torqued and torqued. There we go. That concludes the change of the right front axle joint on the DJI Mini 4 Pro. Thanks for watching. Now we're ready to fly again. Perfect.